Hi, how's it in the name of Christ? Sorry, how are you doing? It's your girl Cranky, it's Karabo. I hope you're good, I hope you're peachy, I hope you're stellar, and I hope you're in a neat little bunch. If you're not, welcome to the party. So I'm very flat today, but I'll conquer. I don't know. Y'all, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna be okay. It's the 27th of April 2024. Let me just put the date out there first, but it's actually the 26th because I'm hopping over into the next day. But this is the discussion of the chat session for the 26th. But it's currently the early hours of the morning. Yeah, not too late. Anyway, yeah. Let me just put some caveats out there. Kindly look out for my captions. They are not always accurate. They sometimes use a small g for God. Sometimes they're not reverential, but I keep them there because I like them. One day, God willing, in the future, I'll change them up. And then secondly, I very potentially might be wearing app makeup. If I am, you'll know because it'll be bouncing off. And then I have like a segment which I'm not really in the mood of right now, but I'll just do it anyway for the sake of it. Hopefully I'll be done really quickly. Kind of pinch my cheeks essentially just to display that I'm human. When you prick me, I bleed. But that does not seem to matter even in the slightest. I hope I achieved it. There we go. Very quickly it happened. I was hoping to bring a blush about. Okay, let's just get straight into the point. Oh, guys, like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know what was happening in the lives of Christians before, like at this, like the way that things are going right now. I don't know if this is going to result in deliverance or martyrdom. I don't know. But I feel like I'm gonna die. So, but anyway, listen, yesterday and the day before, yesterday I think I was a little bit more jocose. Anyway, whatever. Look, I came here. No, yesterday, what was I talking about? Yeah, no, yesterday I was just talking about the ridiculousness, essentially. Whew, guys, like of my country here, yo. Like I just guys, I don't know. You know, what happens when a country is demon possessed? Like, shoo. I am working and I'm gonna continue to work really hard. First prize before anything to get out of South Africa. I have to leave. And you know, I've been saying that because, y'all, I don't know, like I don't mind dying, because precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. And I imagine heaven is going to be amazing. And frankly, I've been wanting to go to heaven pretty much since I got thrown into this obscurity. I just have not been awarded that death. God has not given it to me. I of course can't take my own life, but I've wanted to leave, and God has not let me. So I've just done nothing but speak and talk about my pain, everything that I'm going through. Yeah, and for like 10 years. I don't know how this ends. Do you understand? And for me, it's like, I don't mind dying. God knows that. I don't mind going home. I'm not scared of death, even in the slightest. What I am scared of is suffering for so long, and suffering with no end in sight to my pain, that I'm just going to languish until I die. Like, for however long the rest of my life is. And that's why I am working tooth and nail to try and get out of South Africa. I need to leave. This morning, yesterday I did, not yesterday, or day before, like one of the videos that I recently did, I was speaking about how it is that if I don't leave South Africa, I'm going to die. I am going to get killed. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. So I don't know if this is going to result in a martyrdom or in my deliverance or breakthrough. But what is definitely true is that if I stay in South Africa, I will be martyred. Like, it's going to happen. But my sorrow and my pain is, when is it gonna happen? How quickly from today? When am I gonna be taken out of my misery? When are they gonna finally reach a tipping point where they end me? When is important, because I cannot be going through this for another 10 years. I don't have the emotional strength. But God let me know. The other day when I was washing the dishes, I told you guys, I heard, spurred up in my understanding, that scripture from Psalm 125, that the scepter of the wicked will not remain on the land allotted to the righteous, lest the righteous should turn their hands aside to do evil. Okay? So essentially, the attrition, the severity of persecution and sorrow that is just ceaseless and never ending. It cannot continue in the life of a Christian without God stopping it. without the Lord putting an end to it, either through the breakthrough, the deliverance, the recovery, the restoration of the Christian, being basically salvaged out of that situation, or martyrdom. Death, precious in the sight of the Lord, is the death of his saints. Death stops the suffering, so too does deliverance. And just a continuation of the situation. That is not what God would do. Just never, just a loop, just ongoing sorrow in the life of a Christian until they start to doubt their Christianity, God, and all that jazz. The Lord knows that we are made of dust. Okay, so this electric blanket is very hot. I'm reducing the heat. The Lord knows what we can take, guys. And also he knows that we are made of dust, and he gives us faith. He gives us some pretty strong faith that we can fight basically our enemies, serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy. Yeah, he gives us all that. But like, he knows that we're not invincible. We are Christian. We are given power from on high, but we are not invincible. We are not invincible, meaning that, like you know, I like to say with my cheek blushing exercise, when you prick me, I bleed. We're human. We are human. And this prison that is the earth, if at all we are not reprieved from it, the righteous would turn evil. It's that basic. They would just become evil. We would end up taking matters into our own hands. As it stands, I have little to no care for the wicked. I thoroughly don't care if they die. I actually salivate after it. I want them neutralized. I want them to die. Understand, some of these people are family members. Some of these people are people I used to love, former friends. And now, because of all the sorcery I keep seeing, I'm just like, proper, just go. I need reprieve. And for me, it's like, I really don't care how it comes. Whether it be in their death, their extinction, or my deliverance, or my death. But if it's my death, I guess I've sought the Lord's face to make it, of course, like, take me. Just like Elijah said in the wilderness, take me. Give me a heart attack, a brain aneurysm, anything. Knock me out. Give me a stroke. Take me. I don't mind, because I have made a contract with you. I belong to you. I will be reprieved from this body of death, first and foremost, the sin that's heavy on my body, and I will also be reprieved from the pain of this earth. So I really do not care about death. I don't care to avoid it. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. I'm not afraid of it. I don't want to elude it. I don't want to delay it as long as possible, because this earth is just too taxing. It's painful. And South Africa is massively to blame for why I want to die, why I am scared that I won't die fast enough, because I don't trust this crazy country to do better. Okay, so y'all are probably wondering, why am I talking like this? I was talking like this day before yesterday, but the tone today is a little bit different because I'm dealing with a bunch of narcissistic folk. Let me give you a testimony. Not mine. It's not my testimony. It's the testimony of some other person. Okay, so there is this channel on YouTube. God used that story to help me understand just the severity of the situation right now. Okay, if you will hear me out, listen. So there is this channel on YouTube called African Confessions. The gentleman that runs that channel basically gets written emails by people who are sharing their experiences, their stories about their involvement in darkness. It started out being a channel about South African confessions, the guys from South Africa. But then there were so many people in Africa that could relate, that sent him emails from Nigeria, Kenya, everywhere, that he then changed his channel name to, I guess, not South African Confessions, but African Confessions. Because this is an African issue, and I've been saying it. This whole sorcery problem is never mind an African issue, but largely a black African issue, and it wreaks so much havoc in black people's lives across the continent of Africa. We are already suffering, we're already impoverished, we just go through so much. And we crush each other. Like, it's just so, like, when you're born as a black person in Africa, it's like you are set up for failure from the get-go, because you will inevitably, somewhere along the way in your life, either be afflicted by a whole bunch of fellow Africans or be the afflictor. You're not going to escape one of those two statuses. You will either be the afflictor or be afflicted, or both. It's just inevitable. There is no black person that is exempt. I don't believe there is a single black person that grows up from the beginning of their life all the way up until they pass away that does not get swung a flying kick from a friend, a family member, a colleague, sometimes even strangers that you just like, people you just met like 2 days ago. Like, it's just a problem in the black community, and they tend to keep it within the black community. Thankfully, they don't harass people outside of our demographic that much. They don't, and thankfully, otherwise the chaos would be a lot larger. The epicenter of this particular earthquake would span a grander radius. Yeah, if black people actively afflicted just about anything and everyone, they tend to come at each other, and for that I'm grateful. Let there be some other people out here in these streets that have it a little easier, because then there'll be somebody to keep this country together with sticky tape, for crying out loud. Seeing as we are always in a trance, we are always in some kind of a zombie-like state as black people. We are either perpetually bewitched or bewitching, and it's just there's no cessation of hostilities. Like, and I don't even think that it'll ever happen. And I spoke the other day about how it is that the Africans that tend to escape this best, who have the best shot at eradicating this grain, to absolve themselves from either practicing sorcery or being a sorcerer in and of themselves, or turning to sorcery just to protect yourself from sorcery, because they don't know that there is a solution in Jesus Christ, is to leave Africa. Like, it's the ones in the diaspora that have it easier. The ones who have left to go live in the West or wherever are better off, less likely to get afflicted by just a zombie apocalypse encircling them. But I did speak about how it is that, well, actually, I spoke it in shorts. You didn't really hear it in my long form content. I'm yet to share the shorts, but I spoke about how it is that African spirituality is gangrenous. It's gangrenous in that it spreads to other Africans across the world, even if they are not born in Africa. Like, if they're African European or African American, it is getting there. The guy in America that wreaked havoc in my life has never set foot on African soil. He's never left the continent of North America, and yet he is so severely influenced by African spirituality. It's a gangrene, it's spreading, and black people abroad are now starting to practice it voluminously, but not nearly at the scale that you would find it in Africa. Plus, nations vary in how they conquer darkness, because if there is a force of Christians on the ground that are actively fighting dark powers, there then tends to just generally be a protection, like a ubiquitous protection, like a coverage of that nation from sorcery and sorcerers just having a field day running amok. Like in the US, for instance, they've been sinning so severely that witchcraft is basically taking a chokehold on the country, and so the Lay Jane and the Lay Joe on the street is having a hard time basically recovering. But in general, the whole, hey guys, like the whole intense sabotage of other people using sorcery is not as big an epidemic in the West as it is in Africa. So the whole continent is not as afflicted by it as we are. I'm trying to help you guys understand that the people in the diaspora have it better because they're generally covered by whatever might be the spiritual climate of that country. And they're also covered by being so far away from Africa and not being in the climate of black Africans in Africa. They, however, are slowly but surely raising. They're taking it up. They're adopting it. They think that it wasn't broken. Goodness, like, how in the world, like, you know, the Africans in the diaspora, for me, it's like, guys, look at Africa. Just look at the continent of Africa. Why do you think that there's nothing broken here? Enough for you to use sorcery. Like, for instance, Beyonce is an African American, and she is busy embracing African deities because she imagines it wasn't broken. She's using African gods in her music. She is obviously changed her focus over to some African gods because she imagines that those are her roots. And my thing about that is you were born and bred in America, the land of the free, where there is all this commercial power, and you are taking on a god or gods from a continent that has not broken past a grain of poverty. Do you not see the defeatism of that? Not that it's okay to do witchcraft, but all the Africans in the diaspora and all the Africans that were born not in Africa, like African Americans, African Europeans, why are you embracing African spirituality across the world when there is so much poverty? Like, there is evidence that it doesn't make sense, because look at what it's done to Africa. Look at how much it's ravaged Africa. So why would you bring it to America? Why would you bring it to Europe, Australia, Canada, South America? Why? It's just this, like, you know what? Let's just get to the point. Let me tell you the African Confessions testimony so you can understand how severely the Lord describes what's going on and why it is that I'm sitting in a position right now, really, I think my fear is, of course, ungodly, largely because I am tired and I'm human. I'm tired and I'm human. And when God shows me things, I get exasperated by what I get shown, because for me, it's like, when am I ever going to get out of these woods? It's exhausting. When, God, you know, like, I'm tired of just having fetters and chains and briars and all different kinds of weird bondages that I must constantly make war with because somebody afresh is doing something new. That is fear talk. It's exasperation talk. It's tiredom talk. It's fatigue talk. And it's not spiritual talk. It's not godly talk. It's perfect love casts out fear. And he who has been made perfect in love does not fear. So I should not be scared, especially considering God alerted me to these things. So just by mere virtue of being forewarned, I'm therefore forearmed, but I am tired. And as a result, I'm walking in a shaky disposition where I'm like, how is this going to end? Am I ever going to get my children, my husband? I cannot lean on the rapture. It's unreliable. It's entirely unreliable because we don't know the day or the hour. So if I am being successfully blocked from getting to where I need to get on time, will this be a slow, painful death, like a gnawing away cancer? Will I just perish from a broken heart? After years, will just continue to progress with me suffering like this? I don't believe that that's going to happen, but sometimes I do get really scared that that might, because I'm human. And I guess just like God rebuking his disciples, "O you of little faith," he will not allow us to be condemned when brought to trial. And he will not allow the scepter of the wicked to remain on the land allotted to the righteous, lest we should turn our hands over to do evil. Yesterday I spoke about how it is that all of those who are laughing at me and who are hoping that I never ever get what it is that I ask for from God in prayer, hoping to convert me to a mistress or a side piece or something of some evil man. I spoke about how it is that at the end of the day, what's important to me is the pearl of great price, heaven. I'm going to heaven, eternal life. So even if God never gives me what I ask for in prayer, at the end of the day, I will still hit a bullseye. I will have still gotten a jackpot. I will avoid an eternity of torment and anguish. However, likely what would become the state of my soul, on my heart, on earth, with unanswered prayer, would be bitterness. I would be like Mara. I would be like Naomi in the Bible, Ruth's mother-in-law. I would be embittered because God has taken so much away from me and left me basically a barren woman, a destitute woman, a woman that looks as if though she never even had any children or a husband, because here it is that I am a widow with not even a single grandchild, just a woman that, like, yeah. So she called herself Mara because God left her nothing but bitterness. I spoke about how it is that I would be bitter, but you see, that is a fear that I have, and I don't want to be bitter. I don't want to be old and having not gotten anything in prayer because I'm sitting in this dastardly country. I don't want that. So I would much rather, if at all the Lord does not want me to have any such things as those, I would much rather than just let me go home. Like, just let me go home. I don't want to have to experience the excruciating pain of being Mara. I don't want that. I know that I don't get to pick what I want, because many are the afflictions of the righteous. But do I really have to go through another 10 years? Of course, that is, like I said, faithless talk. It's me throwing away positive prophecies that I have seen about the future and leaning on the darkness. But that's just the thing, you know, that generally tends to be what people focus on a lot. When you get slapped, it's a lot more painful than when you get hugged. And so therefore you will remember the slap more. It'll linger on you more than the hug, because that's just the nature of human beings. We tend to focus on that which is excruciating more than that which is pleasurable and that which is joy-giving. So, hey guys, look, let me just get to the point, okay? Let me get to the point. Let me tell you this testimony that I was listening to on African Confessions. Okay, like, it was raining today, so it's not even a very hot day, and yet I am boiling because I'm out here insisting on having this electric blanket be in some setting, and I'm wearing a jersey, and now I'm feeling exasperated and hot. Okay, I've like switched off the electric blanket, so I should be okay. Yeah, okay. There's this guy that has this channel on YouTube I've already spoken about, called African Confessions. You could go check it out, but I stopped listening to it because ish, guys, you know what? When the Lord fills you with the Holy Spirit, darkness is just so grieving. It's so overwhelming. It creates such a millstone on your heart. It creates such a sense of foreboding. It'll make you live in a tarnished state of mind due to you just being absolutely shocked, bereft at the height of evil in the world. And Ish, yo, like people who practice darkness, it's like at some point does this stuff not get exhausting? Like, does it not feel tiresome to be in a horror movie all throughout your days? To be the thing that scares, that goes bump in the night. A lot of times in horror movies, the thing that is scary tends to be dead. I don't think it has a sense of itself, a sense of awareness. It is a ghost. It is ghastly. It is scary, and all it does is that all day long it doesn't eat. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't drink. It's just Freddy Krueger. It's just Chucky and his bride. It's just it, the clown. It is an entity that does not sleep. It does not eat. Essentially, what I'm trying to get at is that it does not have humanity. It does not have the scope or the range of emotions and the sentiency and the cognition of a human being. It does not have a desire for rest. That's why it can keep on pursuing you despite running at 25 kilometers an hour. It can still catch up with you because it needs no rest. It is otherworldly. It is not of this realm. So it doesn't operate by our time and space. That's why it's able to scare. Yeah. So then when you are Freddy Krueger, when you are Chucky, when you as a human being are Annabelle, the conduit strange doll through which demons operate, when you as a human being with a beating heart and blood coursing through your veins and an operating brain, being sentient therefore, having cognition, able to gauge things as human beings gauge them, interact with the earth the way that we interact with the planet and each other. When you put yourself in a position to be like something that does not have any such human limitations and also human girth to feel, how do you not get worn out by being like an entity, being like a thing that goes by? Does it not drain you? Because, guys, listen up. The Lord created Adam, and then he made Eve from his rib. And the reason why he made Eve was because it was not good for Adam to be alone. So fellowship there with another human being. Because God himself is a triune God who is a relationship. Holy Spirit, Son, Father. Do you understand? When then you live in such an ominous space that is apart from proper or appropriate relations with the human race, you are literally extracting yourself from the grace and the peace that can be rewarded to a person when they are at peace with their fellow man. You are making yourself at enmity with your very nature, with the image of God in you. Not only that, not only are we born, not only are we born to fellowship with each other, because that's our nature, we are also given God's law on our heart. It is written on our hearts. What Moses wrote on the tablets, what he didn't write it on the tablets were given him by a supernatural process, right? But that writ, those 10 commandments were given him basically as a confirmation of what it is that was already dwelling in people's hearts. They already knew what was wrong and what was right. They already knew not to commit adultery. They already knew that it was wrong. They already knew that murder was wrong. They already knew that theft was wrong. They already knew that false witness was wrong. 1 minute. They already knew that all of these things were wrong because of how they felt about them. They felt that way about them when they committed them because of something called a conscience. That's why it's written in Romans 1 that the invisible qualities of God are all over creation and we are therefore without excuse, even if we don't get the gospel when we reject God. That's because the law of God is written all over our hearts. So we have his image in us, we have his desire for fellowship in us, and we have got his law written on our hearts. The law that was given to Moses was not there to save man, that they might obey it, but rather to condemn them, to basically validate or verify that they could not follow it, that they were absolutely fallen short to achieve success in that regard. And that's why they needed a propitiator. That's why they needed a substitute. They needed a holy God who became man, who died for us unjustly, that the unjustness might then, so that we might be justified through the unjust death of the Son of Man. Very well, that's the basic gospel in like 5 seconds, okay? Yeah, because of the fact that we've got God's law written on our hearts, we are then lambasted, essentially tortured, when we go against it. Whether or not we like to admit that, our consciences grieve us, even when we insist on afflicting ourselves still with them. At some point, the Lord, when you don't heed your conscience that is given you thanks to the law of God on your heart, he will give you your wildest dreams and hand you over to a reprobate mind and allow for the searing of your conscience that you might feel less guilty when you commit abominations. But who is maintained in that state of psychosis, essentially a catatonia, a comatose nature where you're walking around on the earth very dissimilar to everybody else that's on the planet. When you convert yourself into a livid socio or psychopath, somebody that is absent in thought in comparison to the regular man and the regular woman on the street, we are regulated by one another's behavior and by the fear of what we think about each other. We are regulated by basically societal expectations of what ought to be our behavior. That's why largely we are able to be civilized despite being ungodly sometimes. It's because we tend to frown upon things that the law of God on our hearts recognizes wrong. It just is a default setting in our hearts. Therefore, you, albeit even being tended towards having your conscience seared, because you have lingered in wickedness for so long that God handed you over to a reprobate mind, albeit having that then as a reward for your wickedness to get to not feel anything, you still are avoidant of society finding out what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, we regulate each other. We frown upon certain things. We generally agree as to what is wrong and what is right. So when you partake in darkness and you make out of yourself like an entity, you on that day essentially become a fugitive from society. You hide from us, even if you no longer feel any kind of way about what you're doing, because the Lord has seared your conscience. Given that you are reprobate now, you are depraved, so he has allowed you to be handed over to your passions. Despite being given over to your passions, even those passions of yours, some of y'all cannot just outwardly practice them in broad daylight, because you secretly know that society is going to frown upon you, and deep down inside you long for their approval. You long for the approval of the rest of us down here in these streets. So who is just content with that level of disquiet, just that level of shuffling around, fidgeting, uneasy about getting caught, getting busted, hands in the cookie jar and everything? Who wants to live a life shrouded in secrecy, clandestine, perpetually, hiding behind some veil, masquerading as an angel of light? A smokescreen is perpetually in front of who you truly are. Do you not don't you just feel some kind of way when you walk into the premises where you do strange things? If you have a room in your house where you do, like when you practice witchcraft, a shrine, does it just not overwhelm you with a sense of foreboding? Do you guys not get to a point where you're just empty, you're hollow? Because that separates you from fellowship with mankind in a way that's healthy and wholesome. We are born to be in relationship with each other. That's why it was not good for Adam to be alone. God himself is not alone. He is a triune God. One God, three persons. Therefore, witchcraft, sorcery, practicing dark arts separates you from appropriate fellowship with your fellow man, with a healthy dose of fellowship with your fellow man. Do you know that babies die if you don't touch them, if you don't hold them? If after a season they've just been left neglected in a place and they don't get found, they perish. Not so much from hunger or even from thirst or even from just neglect. Like, they have to be touched. You could be feeding them intravenously through tubes, but if you don't actually touch them, they die. That ought to communicate to you just how strongly God feels about human fellowship, human affiliation. It's important. And witches, you eradicate from yourselves that touch. You kill yourself slowly by putting yourself in a position to not be appropriately touched or sufficiently touched by a fellow man, because you're always hiding from them. You're always a fugitive from them. You are shrouding your true self from them. Nobody really truly knows who you are, and on top of that, you are a bandit, a miscreant. You are an afflictor of society. You are a terrorist. So basically, your ecosystem, the land in which you live, the radius that you cover, is your victim. And that then, of course, separates you by several degrees from your fellow man. You're literally one prophecy or dream away from losing a friend, a family member, a mother, a sister. You are one exposure away from losing all that fellowship, so everything is always just something that could fall out of your hands. Even the relationships you have, you could lose them because you are one prophetic vision or dream away from a person knowing what you are doing to them. I personally will have nothing to do with people that I have learned have cast spells on me. As soon as I find out, I write them off. So they are like ones who are indeed just one dream away, one vision away, one suspicion away from losing the touch that I can award them, and so therefore bless them with that pink in their cheeks that people get when they fellowship with each other. The thing that makes babies coo, the thing that makes babies continue to giggle and laugh and carry on, it's because they're being touched by people, and you are just one dream away from people not wanting to stroke you, that you might live to see another day. You are literally on death row. You are on death row. You are creating ghost towns around your unique life. because you are making yourselves enemies of the human race. It's just bizarre for me. But anyway, you do it. And I want to explain to you why it is that I, right now, I want fellowship with mankind. I want relations again, whatever, with human beings. But I do not want an earth like this. And I understand that there is a place that I get to go where there is perfect fellowship with fellow man, and I will be restored to all the touch I want in my life. In heaven. I know that I must fill the earth and occupy it, and that I must not so long for heaven that I cannot live out my life on earth. But you see, what's blocking me from living my life on earth is all of this wickedness on earth. It's not my own desire. I have not chosen this excruciating solitude. I have not chosen it. It has picked me out and isolated me. Why? Because I found out. You see, unlike the victims, many of the victims of witches, I found out. And so that touch, that human affiliation, that relationship that I was to all the people who afflicted me in this way has been lost. They lost me. I didn't lose them. I found out. That is my point right now. A lot of people don't find out, but they are, like I said, one dream away from finding out. So how many me's are in the making right now in the lives of witches? People that will be lost to witches forever because they find out that this person is involved with darkness where I am concerned. When you will never be able to hug Karabo again, when you will never be able to hold her hand again, have a conversation with her, essentially feel her body heat when she's standing next to you. When you will not be able to laugh again, dance again with a person that now sees you as this enemy that is utterly desirous of shattering, destroying them. You become like the end of a barrel of a gun to a Christian. You become the thing that goes bump in the night. Not a Christian, just anyone that is your victim. You become the threat or the risk. And when there is something that is a threat or a risk in your life, you don't stick around in its midst. You just don't. And when somebody feels like there is a gun pointing at them, they will avoid you. And you guys are that gun. You are those guns that are pointing at people. You are so destructive to people that, I mean, this here, it's just unacceptable. Like witchcraft is just unacceptable, guys. It's unacceptable. Just the manipulation, one second. The manipulation of people's lives is unacceptable, narcissistic, rude, uncalled for, arrogant, and brazen. Just to make a decision, to manipulate the outcomes of a person's life. So, I mean, when you commit such a brazenly rude and narcissistic, unconscionable, selfish act against someone and they find out, I mean, why do you think that you will have any friends? Why do you think that you will maintain any relationship with family? That you will be sisters in name only, mother and daughter in name only, but there'll be no actual relationship? I mean, it's so much betrayal. And it is like just the extent of manipulation, the extent of the theft of autonomy, the extent of control. It's just so exquisite that it's just frankly narcissistic, it's brazen, and it's arrogant. And there are people who go out of their way to do that to others, and like all they're literally holding on to in terms of relationships with the people that they've done this to is a skinny little sheet of paper, a thread, because that relationship could snap any minute. All that it would take is for your victims to know. And witches, you tend to come like a flood, a torrent, do you understand? Against some of the closest people in your lives, those that you love the most, your friends, your family members, your besties. Like, you afflict the most important people in your lives, making it such that the fellowship you have with them is held together by a skinny little like thread that could just snap easily, just like that. You will lose some of the most important people in your lives, and that does not trigger you. That does not make you scared. That does not stay your hand. Why do you not enter into introspective thought deep before you do this stuff? Why do you not ask yourself, what would I do or feel if this person were to find out? Would I be prepared to lose this relationship? Guys, you become sociopaths. You become psychopaths. Do you understand what I'm saying? You become utterly irrational and entirely unacceptable in the lives of people. You become something worthy of being kicked by the hind legs of an animal. Just entirely thrown away. Do you not get exhausted? You are not entities. You are not demons. Do you understand? You are human. You are not Freddy Krueger. You are not Chucky and Chucky's bride. You are people. You therefore cannot anticipate that you can perpetually and successfully, without there being some kind of severity of consequences in your life, carry on like said entities as these. You can't continue to be the grudge, the thing that goes bump in the night, the clown to people, and not in and of yourself suffer severely the consequences of being a human being made in the image of God, needing affiliation with fellow man, having the law of God written on your heart, and yet operating like a fallen angel, operating like a demon that can do nothing but steal, kill, and destroy, does not eat, does not sleep, does not drink, and does not care to think about anything but the eternal lake of fire that they're headed to. How in the world are you going to operate like something with that much of a dead end for a future when you have an option at the cross? You still draw breath, and you can eat, you can sleep, you can play, you can laugh, you can chill in a bubble bath for 2 hours, when you can still enjoy any pleasure on the earth, and you are walking around like something that is condemned to eternal fire and can do nothing but destroy and root there because its time is short. Do you not think you're going to end up exhausted emotionally, psychologically? Do you not think you're going to get to a point where essentially you are walking in a psychosis because you cannot walk like Chucky's bride, the candy man? Something that is a horror, a nightmare in people's lives, and not end up with some kind of psychosis. You are inducing mental illness in yourselves. You are cursing yourselves. You are living an impossible life for a human being. You are putting yourself in a position of something that you cannot possibly emulate thoroughly without ramifications. You are hauntings in people's lives, but without actually being a nightmare on Allen Street. How is that sustainable? That's why it's written in God's word that the wicked are like the tossing sea, whose waters bring up mire and dirt continually. There is no rest, thus saith the Lord, for the wicked. You are restless because human beings are supposed to rest. Demons aren't restless. They're in a rush, but they're not restless because they don't sleep. They don't need to. They're just in a rush. You, however, who needs at least 6 to 8 hours a day of sleep, water in your body, and some food, you will walk in a perpetual restlessness when you are not doing human things. When your body is extending itself outside of the realm of our dimension. This is a third heaven, the first heaven. What are we on earth, right? The sky above us, what is it? The first heaven? Yeah. We who are operating in this dimension, we who are operating in time and space on earth and nature, we who are in this earth as it is regulated by the rules that God will give this earth to operate in. When you transcend yourself above this dimension and put yourself in the dimension of demons, you don't have the energy for that. They don't sleep. You don't have the body girth for that. They don't have a body. That's why they like coming inside your body. Fallen angels do have a body, however. They don't operate as we do. That's what I'm trying to get at. And yet you are walking around in their realm. I don't know how many times people these people, like testimonies that I've listened to of astral projectors, how it is that when they come back into their bodies, they feel like they could sleep for years because they're just exasperated. Of course you're going to be exasperated. You're operating in a realm of creatures that can run to and fro the earth and up and about it, like it is written in God's word when the Lord asked Satan what he's doing, where he's been, and the devil was like to and fro up and down the earth. How do we go to and fro up and down the earth? We get on ships or on airplanes, and it takes sometimes days to get to the next continent. Entities just move to and fro up and above the earth in a matter of seconds, minutes, whatever. So when you put yourself in their realm, you're essentially defying even the power of an airplane or of a ship to move you across the seas. Your body will therefore be exasperated. So when you operate in that realm, you are exasperating yourself. You are spreading yourself thin in a way that is frankly unnatural and unhealthy for a human being. And then can you imagine then what becomes the emotional climate of your person? The psychological one at that. When you are operating in that space. If these entities can mess with the emotional and mental climate of the afflicted, if they can cause a person to get sleepy and feel depressed and macabre and all that jazz, when you are operating in that realm, how much worse then are your emotions going to be afflicted? We get hit with jabs from the occult that come from the spiritual dimension. You are in the spiritual dimension apart from God's grace. You're not a Christian, so you're operating with demonic power. When you're sitting in it, you're basically marinated in it. while we are the ones that are afflicted only with just an injection of it, but you are marinated in it. So that's why sometimes, despite having conviction that you are going to hell, you end up committing suicide anyway. Despite knowing that this is not going to end well for you, you just can't help yourself. You get so demon possessed. You operate in another world that is not supposed to be operated in by human beings, and then you can't control yourself from pulling the trigger, knowing you are sending yourself to an eternal condemnation. Why carry on? What is going on? But anyway, your defeatism is a deception. There's really no other word that can be used to describe whatever's going on there other than deception. You've been deceived into accepting that for a lifestyle because it has no rest. You are like the tossing sea. Your waters bring up mire and dirt continually. There is no rest, thus saith the Lord, for you. That's what you are. You have accepted an unacceptable life for a human being. You have shot yourself in the foot. But you are stubborn, you are rebellious, you are recalcitrant, and you are determined to finish what you have started, and so you are causing a severity of discouragement in saints who are the only ones in these streets actually standing in the gap for you, actually able to stand in the gap for you, because we're the only ones whose prayers are being heard. For the prayers of the wicked are an abomination to Emmanuel. We're the only ones that get answered prayer truly. Everybody else is just deceiving themselves when they think they've got an answered prayer if they're not in Christ. It's just the common grace of God operating over there. So therefore, we are the only ones who are actually truly able to seek Lord's face out, the Lord's face out, to snatch you from the flames of hell, give you more time, give you grace. And you keep on coming at these people and discouraging them from even petitioning for your soul. You wear us out. You get us to a point where I'm so tired that I want you dead. I said that. I'm just out here confessing the truth of what's going on in my heart. I am exhausted to a point where I desire your demise. I'm exhausted, and I will not be the first Christian to pray a prayer like this, because David was afflicted many a time. Did he ask for the blood of his enemies? It is exhausting what you do to us. You get us to a point where instead of magnanimity, grace, being awarded you mercy, we choose wrath because we're just tired. We are exhausted. We're human. And that's what I've been talking about. So let's go back to African confessions. I know I can be long-winding. There is this testimony of this one guy. This guy collects testimonies of people from all over Africa of their spiritual endeavors. It's not necessarily a Christian channel. It's just a African spirituality channel. However, largely focusing on Christian deliverance. But it's not so biblical and so Christian that I can call it a Christian channel getting confessions from people in Africa who have been dealing with demonic powers. They sometimes give ungodly counsel. That's what I'm getting at. Unbiblical advice as to how to deal with nonsense. Like basically, don't disturb the ancestors and you'll be okay. Stuff like that you can hear coming from African confessions, and there's just no biblical soundness to any such counsel. But there is this one testimony that I listened to. I stopped listening to them. Why? I stopped listening to that channel because that world is so dark. It's so dark, and people are not supposed to be operating in it. And it wore me out just from the vantage point of listening to the testimonies. What then when you're in it? What then when you're in it? It is so depressing. So I stopped listening to it. And all of these stories of people talking about how it is that they are Brother Nashe. That's the guy's channel. That's the name of the guy that runs the channel, Nashe. It's like, Brother Nashe, I just wanted to write you the story. I wanted to share this with someone because I did not know where to go, who to talk to. So I wrote into African Confessions, and I really hope that maybe you can help me, or maybe somebody in your comment section can reach out and help me out. The people essentially who are ensnared, severely ensnared by the occult, out here reaching out to Brother Nashe, hoping that Brother Nashe or Brother Nashe's audience is going to pray for him or her, help him or her out, get them loosed from basically operating like Freddy Krueger, albeit being a human being. And one of the people who called into Brother Nashe's channel was a man on his deathbed, a man that was on his way out. He was dying, and this man, God described some of my family members as, and he described some of my former friends as. And it hurt me, but it also exhausted me. I'm tired, you guys, and I don't want to fight you. I've been fighting for a decade, and you appear to be prepared to keep fighting, despite what I would imagine your batteries running out. However, there are many of you, and I'm exhausted, and I don't know if this is going to result in my martyrdom. I do not know if this is going to kill me. I do not know if I'm just going to be languishing, perpetually praying, holding fast to the promise of heaven, albeit living out the rest of my earthly life very uncomfortably. I don't trust that that's what's going to happen. However, every so often I am in torment and so much fear that, oh me of little faith. I take my eyes off Jesus, and so God has to take me out the water. And today was that day where I was just dragging myself through, and I was so angry all the time. I was mad. I was even washing the dishes with irritation because I was just like, who lives in so much darkness? I am subjugated to the tyranny of it as a victim. What then when you are off the occult, when you are in the kingdom of darkness? Do you not feel exhaustion? I understand demonic possession can make you dastardly daft and unable to feel your own skin. But what of you, just that small little sliver of yourself that is human, does not just want to get out? I guess that's why you write Brother Nashe, right? You write them on African confessions, hoping that Christians are going to deliver you, because likely you've been written off by your own family. You've been written off by your own community. The local church is sick and tired of you. So now you got to go on YouTube and hope that some people in the comment section are going to dedicate their fasting and their prayer to your silly story. You put yourselves in a position to suffer alone, having no fellowship with there being no Eve coming for you, Adam, even though it is not good for you to be alone. You isolate yourself from the planet because of your darkness. Then you write Brother Nashe. This one dude writes into Brother Nashe on African confessions, and he had been sacrificing family members pretty much for, and this dude was still living in poverty, and yet he had shed so much blood. It appears the blood of one sister, one cousin was not enough to put him in a mansion, to set him up in a good job. He was still a low income South African living maybe like in Deep Sluit or something, but he had squandered the blood of people's nieces, nephews, family members, and now he was given a sickness, a disease by what he comprehended to be a devil. Some kind of a devil, a demon, gave him an ailment that he wanted to eradicate. And he wrote into Brother Nashe, and unlike Brother Nashe, unlike many of the people, who write into Brother Nashe's channel, this dude was unrepentant. This dude was without true contriteness. He just wanted to escape the impending death that would inevitably happen to him by any means necessary. And so he was trying to get help from Brother Nashe's audience, some of whom were actual Christians like me, to give him an idea on how to eradicate this thing in this occultic fashion. This man had sacrificed, like I said, everything and anything in these streets, and yet he was still poor. Then he got given a disease by an entity, and this disease would inevitably end his life from what it is that he shared, that he did not have much time to live. And he spoke about how it is that he was trying to transfer that disease into his mother. He was trying to transfer it into his mother so that his mother could be the one to die and not him. And then he said to Brother Nashe and the audience, it would be great if you guys were to give me advice as to how I can succeed to give this disease to my mom, because I have been failing in this regard and I'm worried because I don't have much time left. Tell me how I can, is there anybody that can write me in your audience that is going to help me know how under heaven I can transfer this to my mother or something else, an animal? Because I'm not ready to die yet. This guy was not looking for deliverance. He was not looking for Jesus. He was not looking to be set free as a captive. He was just looking to give this to somebody else so that he can continue doing exactly what he's been doing all along. No contriteness. So essentially something was afflicting him, just like Saul's evil spirit. Saul's evil spirit that caused him to continue to fling a dagger at David as he was playing the harp. Yeah, this dude had that going down for himself, and he wanted to be soothed of his evil spirit, but was not really interested in redemption. He wasn't interested in being saved. I don't even think he imagined it was possible to be saved, because he had seen so much darkness. He had achieved so much occult success. He had lain people to the ground. He had squandered blood. And for him, Jesus was just a joke. And so he just wanted a stronger occult ritual, petitioning Brother Nashe. That's why that channel, I wouldn't recommend it to Christians as a Christian channel. It's just a story of taboo things that people do in Africa. I wouldn't recommend you watch it either, even if you're interested in those taboo stories, because they're just very darkening. Your heart will feel like there's no hope inside. You will feel like everything is a black cloud outside. You won't see the sun properly after listening to that channel, because you will understand just how evil your surrounding environment is. Black people in Africa are destroying the continent. They are destroying themselves. They're destroying their individual countries. South Africa has been laid destitute by witchcraft. It's like a state capture. Literally, it is the exact tantamount of a state capture. Witchcraft has couped our government. It has couped our country. It is what is rather running the show instead of actual law enforcement. Guys, like you get my, whoa. I'm exhausted. Like, this here is a hospice, and I am a perfectly healthy person that is in a hospice. I am a perfectly healthy person that has nonetheless been booked into a hospice. I am not dying, but if I stay in South Africa, inevitably I will. It's unacceptable that I'm in hospice with perfect health. My country has put me in a casket before I have passed away. I'm like Uma Thurman in Kill Bill, out here scratching at a casket, punching it with my bare hands, hoping to come out and go and get revenge against Bill. I have been buried alive with a perfect, clean bill of health. No health conditions. Nothing that would suggest that any minute now I could pass away. And if I don't break out of my casket, a tombstone being erected over a living body, if I don't break out of this supernaturally, I will breathe my last from asphyxiation. I will pass away from a lack of affection. I will die from not being touched, coddled like a baby. I will basically not have the affiliation that keeps human beings alive, even though I'm innocent. I am an Eve without an Adam. I've been made for Adam, and yet I am not being touched. And the responsibility for that travesty is my nation, that is South Africa. They have left me to perish, buried me comprehensively alive, and given me tubes to breathe with limited oxygen. And if I don't break out before that oxygen depletes, I pass away. I just don't know when that date is. And I keep looking at God and I'm like, give me ideas to get out of here. Please help me break out of this casket, because I'm living in hospice as a perfectly healthy person, encircled by dead men and women that should rather be the ones booked into the hospice, but they're surveilling my hospice where I've been booked in, checked in, unable to be discharged because I'm dying apparently. I keep on getting surveilled by them, thrown at me are their spells perpetually, all day and night. And just when I feel like I'm coming up for air, there is then another hindrance that slaps me. And I then have to deal with that, and I don't know how long this is going to keep going on for. I need to defect from this country. I need to get out. I need to make like an African diaspora and have a better life as an African somewhere in another nation, because this here is not sustainable. You will keep on trashing your Africans. You will keep on trashing your South Africans. You will keep on ripping it to shreds, running it, state capturing your country's governments in ancestral worship until kingdom come. And if at all we are going to have some kind of a semblance of a normal life as African Christians, we gotta go. Black ones in particular. The white folk are cool because you tend to leave them alone. You leave the Indians alone. You leave the coloreds alone. You leave them alone. It's black people that suffer at the hands of black people in Africa. So if you're gonna escape either becoming a tormented person by witchcraft or a tormentor, if you're gonna escape in getting involved in ancestral worship, just so you can protect yourself from everything else that every black person in these street corners are doing to you. If you are going to be a true biblical Christian holding on to no one but Jesus, because that's the only thing that saves, you gotta leave. You have made it such that we have got to leave our countries. I would not have wanted to go, but the worst thing that happened to me, it appears, was getting born again as a black person in Africa. Because for crying out loud, the barrage of attack that I have endured at the hands of black people who are trying to force me to worship the many gods that they worship is astronomical. My life was somewhat okay before I got saved. I then got saved and got attacked like this. I would have inevitably, as a black person, had to in and of myself start dabbling with darkness just to loose myself from what I would have made an observation are bondages around my career all of a sudden, bondages around my education all of a sudden, bondages around my health all of a sudden, bondages around my romantic prospects all of a sudden. I would have noticed that I was hitting brick walls somewhere along the way. I was able to thrive and succeed up to a certain age, but with the amount of witchcraft attacks I was being slapped by even before I came to Christ, I would have eventually hit a brick wall, and I would have eventually, as a result, just like many Africans do, consulted a sangoma to ask, what's going on, what's happening? And then there would have been a ritual done to cleanse me, blah blah, to cover me, to protect me, all that jazz. So I would have ended up in and of myself dabbling. Thank God I got saved before I could consider ancestral worship. I got interested, literally all that happened with me was that I got interested in Christianity first before I got interested in ancestral worship. I just chose Jesus. He happened to come first. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. But what I'm trying to also explain to you guys is that had I not gotten saved at the time that I got saved, it was inevitable that I would have tested this stuff because of what would have hindered me. So when you're in Africa, you inevitably end up doing ancestral worship and so tarnishing your soul, or you are just going to be blocked all around you by everybody and go absolutely nowhere. And trust me, most people go and test the stuff. Because who in the world wants to be unemployed for 10 years? Who in the world wants to not get married when they have the desire? Who in the world wants, you get my point. But when you turn to Christ, he's jealous for us. There is no other God. We understand he is the only way, the only truth, the only life. So you get attacked for not following the grain. Only way out is to be part of the diaspora. I have to leave this dastardly country only because I'm black. If I was a white woman, I might have stayed. If I was Indian, I might have stayed. Indian, I might have stayed. I love South Africa. Because they're not that defeatist against each other, but just by mere virtue of having this skin tone, I get attacked by people that are complete strangers to me. I've given you so many stories of what has happened to me, guys. Colleagues that only worked for MTN for like 2 weeks. Next thing, I should chick bewitching my career. All of it. She's just known me 2 weeks. Lived in a complex where I met a chick in the clubhouse, and we hit it off. Had a house on fire relationship. Within 3 days, she had already cast spells on me. She did not know me. She didn't know me. But out of nothing but jealousy, this friendly woman had already tied things around my body. Dude, I met in one of the complexes I was living during this season of suffering. Within just knowing me after 2 days, already korobela, tsa. Complete stranger, you've known me for 2 days and you already are trying to have sex with me using spells. Some dude from Nigeria. There's like, literally, there's nowhere to run as a black person. There's nowhere to go. When I was working at MTN, I don't know how many guys slapped me with korobela to marry me. Some of them had not even pursued me to date them. They just basically set the ground for themselves to be fertile that I might say yes when they finally start knocking on my door. Out of all of them, who among them was going to win? I don't know. I ended up losing my job. Because I'm black. It was black dudes feeling like I like her, she's pretty, so I'm going to marry her. I choose Karabo. Without Karabo choosing you, without you even pursuing Karabo. Like, you didn't pursue me, dude. But then one day you're gonna be my husband because somehow I'm gonna spaz over you so hard that you're gonna finally capitulate to asking me out, and then you're gonna realize that I'm the love of your life when all along you knew that you wanted to marry me. All along. Making a decision from a distance that she's gonna be my wife. Not that you're gonna try to make her your wife, but that you're gonna make her your wife. I mean, that stuff happens to us everywhere we go. No one can catch a break. No one can catch a break. You can't have a guy have a crush on you and just easily ask you out. You can't have a woman meet you, shake hands, and the two of y'all think you got a friendship going down without her coming at your career, coming at your prospects for marriage, coming at your prospects for having a baby. Guys like Papa. But it's within the black community. They hit each other. They don't go for Chantal and Samantha. They don't go for Pravesh, the Indian dude. They don't go for Cameron, the colored girl. They go for Karabo. They go for Pinky and Tolofelo. So, I mean, really, let me just go be Tolofelo somewhere else. Let me go Pinky somewhere else. Like, let me go and be a black girl with a black name from Africa, you can tell. But like, you're living somewhere else where people are having a hard time pronouncing your name because you had to leave. So that some random strange dude in the office is not going to just make a decision he's going to marry you before he even pursues you. Using witchcraft. That's just the way that it is up in this monster. That's just the way that it is in Africa. It's unfortunate. Okay? And it's exhausting because it steals people's autonomy. So when you get born again, you obviously cannot be dabbling with strange stuff. You then get bombarded simply because you won't mix Christianity with that stuff. However, when you don't get born again, you can keep your hands clean maybe up until the age of 28, 29. But at some point, you're going to do it. You're going to do it. Why? Because why was I doing so well in the beginning of my career and now all of a sudden I've got all of these hindrances? You will do it, cleanse yourself that you might be set free so your career can progress. Literally almost everybody ends up doing it anyway. I was just blessed because I fell heavy, hard, and fast for Jesus Christ. Otherwise, I would have done it because everyone in my family does. I'm waiting for the kids to do it now. The ones that have just left matric, entering the workforce or are in university, I'm waiting for them. They are inevitably going to do it. If they don't turn to Christ first, like I did, they will inevitably turn to darkness. So when an entire country is like that, they're all screaming in hellfire, weeping and gnashing their teeth. And when then a whole bunch of people are going to hell, while you're the only one going to heaven, or among the only ones, of course they're going to drag you down. They're going to heap abuse on you. They're going to wreak havoc in your life. So I mean really, when you're living in Sodom, and I spoke about how South Africa is exactly like Sodom. When you're living in Sodom, all that needs to happen is that Lot must be extracted. This is not Nineveh, you're not repenting, you are Sodom. You are Sodom. As a black person living in South Africa, you cannot escape ancestral worship unless you are part of the diaspora. They will keep coming at you. Even when you meet your husband and get married and have children, they will keep on harassing you with fatigue, headaches, all different kinds of attacks on your marriage. Goodness gracious, trying to be consecrated to Jesus, but you're always making war with the kingdom of darkness. They just can't leave people alone. They can't leave people alone. When Christians are living in a country like that, it is ideal for them, if at all they're going to thrive in their Christianity, to be somewhere else. A prophet has no honor in his own hometown. They cannot perform as many miracles in their Nazareth as they would anywhere else, because no one has any regard for their God. So the miracle of my breakthrough, the miracle of my testimony as I share it, is not going to be embraced by South Africans. They want nothing to do with it. Not within the black community. They are saboteurs. And I am sick and tired of dreaming about them. And I am worried for my life. Even though I shouldn't worry, God said, be anxious for nothing, but in all things by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, make your requests known to God, your supplications, and his peace, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. But I'm only human. Like Peter, sometimes I take my eyes off Jesus and I start to drown. And today was that day. I just felt so bombarded. Sticky fingers, Velcro hands. I just felt so bombarded by these magnetic-handed people. I just felt so bombarded by sorcery being practiced on me, by people who are supposed to love me, who are supposed to take care of me, who are supposed to be my mode of contact. When I'm going through a lot, when people are harassing me, I'm supposed to be running to this person. And yet they are the ones that are making sure that my intelligence does not matter. Are you serious? You are the one that is making like my own uncle. I can't. Angwazi, guys, I can't. If I can't turn to you, if I get like proper, I have no support. And this is because I chose Jesus. I did not expect this level of apostasy in this country, but it is what it is. They are like Brother Nashe. That's what God, not Brother Nashe, but Brother Nashe's African confession guy. The one who is tired, exasperated of sorcery, and sorcery has borne ramifications in his life. And he wants freedom from them, but he doesn't want redemption, so he wants to transfer his disease to his mother. The Lord showed me that a lot of my enemies right now are like that writer in to Brother Nashe's channel. A man that has been practicing sorcery for long, squandered people's life, drained blood. And now it's caught up with him, and instead of repenting, seeing as he's at the end of his life, he's trying still to do another ritual to give himself time. That's what they're like. Let's move to the next part that I might describe to you. Explain the dreams that God is giving me about the various people that are involved in this nonsense, including my uncle, and I'm tired. And one of my cousins, I'm exhausted. Hey.